Ask Britney Spears how quickly they'll turn on you. Po Britney. Po Britney. How sad, how hilariously sad would have happened if you ain't got your team right. They switched on her so quick, they was just free Britney Spears.
They screamed Free Britney for years, and the moment she was free,
He immediately the next day put me on lithium out of nowhere. He took me off my normal meds I'd been on for 5 years. And lithium is a very, very strong and completely different medication compared to what I was used to. You can go mentally impaired if you take too much, if you stay on it longer than 5 months. But he put me on that and I felt drunk. I really couldn't even take up for myself.
she couldn't fight, she couldn't speak, and that was exactly the point.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Epstein files are now saying that Britney Spears is cloned. We all wondered, what happened to the London look? Why does she have that gap in her teeth? It's because it's not Britney.
What if everything you thought you knew about Britney's breakdown was a cover story? What if the real story involves Jeffrey Epstein, a private island, hundreds of millions of stolen dollars, and the most famous family in Hollywood sitting right at the center of it all? Because Katt Williams didn't just talk about the conservatorship, he named names, he connected dots, and once you hear what he's saying, and once you see how it lines up with the Epstein files, the money trails, and the Kardashians, you will never look at any of this the same way again. But here's what nobody is connecting. Let's get one thing straight from the jump. What happened to Britney Spears was not a celebrity having a bad year. It was not a pop star who couldn't handle fame. It was not someone who just randomly lost her mind in the middle of a divorce. What happened to Britney Spears was a coordinated, pre-planned operation years in the making, and Katt Williams has been one of the loudest voices in Hollywood, saying exactly that out loud with zero hesitation. Now, most people remember 2007 Britney the way the tabloids sold it to them. The shaved head, the umbrella incident, the paparazzi chaos, the 5150 hold. And the media absolutely feasted on all of it. Every single meltdown moment got dissected and replayed like entertainment, like a spectacle, like she was the punchline of some sick joke the whole country was in on. But here's what the tabloids conveniently left out of that story. The people closest to Britney at that time, her father, her management, her label, they were not scrambling to help her. They were scrambling to position themselves. And according to Katt Williams, this wasn't a reaction to her breakdown. This was a setup that had been waiting for one. See, you have to understand who Britney Spears was before all of this happened. This wasn't just a pop star. This was a global phenomenon. Sold out arenas, hundreds of millions of records. One of the most commercially valuable artists alive on the planet. When Britney walked into a room, she was worth more money than most corporations. And that kind of value, that attracts a very specific kind of predator. And Katt Williams says, in Hollywood, the real Hollywood, the one operating behind the camera and behind the contracts, once a celebrity becomes that valuable, certain people in power start asking a very different question. It's not, how do we support her? It's, how do we own her?
Anything that happens in a business that's based off of pretend that seems like a setup is.
That's exactly what happened to her. Not accidentally, not naturally. According to Katt, deliberately. And here's the evidence that backs that up. Because 3 years before Britney had any public breakdown, her father, Jamie Spears, and a woman named Lou Taylor allegedly sat down and had a meeting. And in that meeting, according to multiple sources and court-connected filings, the topic was putting Britney Spears under a conservatorship. Let that sink in. They were planning this conservatorship while Britney was still at the top of her career, while she was still selling out shows, while the world was still screaming her name. The breakdown in 2007 didn't create the conservatorship. The breakdown was the moment they had been waiting for. The crisis was the open door they needed to walk through. And Katt Williams is saying that the crisis itself, the divorce, the custody battle, the public spiral, was deliberately engineered by the same people who were about to swoop in and take everything.
Federline is the American God dream. He is proof that you can take nothing and turn it into something.
He's not just clowning Kevin Federline here. He's making a point. Kevin Federline was allegedly sent into Britney's orbit with a purpose. He was the chaos agent, the relationship that would fracture her world just enough to leave her exposed. And once the fracture happened and the divorce got ugly, Britney lost custody of her kids. She was isolated from people who actually cared about her, and she started publicly unraveling. The wolves moved in fast. Within weeks of Britney's most visible public moments of distress, her father Jamie filed for temporary conservatorship of his own daughter, and the judge handling the case took 10 minutes. 10 minutes to strip a grown woman of every single legal right she had, not a week, not a month of hearings and evidence. 10 minutes. And that's not including the fact that Jamie used an unverified claim of dementia to push the case through with zero medical documentation to support it. They lied to a judge, and it worked anyway. If you've been following this story closely, you've probably heard the name Lou Taylor come up more than once. But if this is your first time hearing it, you need to burn this name into your memory right now, because Lou Taylor is the thread that connects almost everything in this story. story. Lou Taylor is the CEO and president of TriStar Sports and Entertainment Group, one of the most powerful celebrity management operations in Hollywood. And her connection to the Spears family didn't start after the breakdown. It started before it. Lou was originally Jamie Lynn Spears' manager, then she became Britney's manager. Then after Britney's hospitalization in 2008, she became deeply embedded in the conservatorship structure itself. She worked as Britney's business manager. She oversaw the estate. She had direct financial involvement in every major deal Britney made during those years, including the Las Vegas residency contract she eventually signed with Caesars Entertainment. Now, here's the detail that the mainstream media barely touched. That Vegas residency contract had a very specific clause buried inside it. Britney could only cancel the deal if the conservatorship ended, and Lou Taylor, the woman who helped negotiate that deal, already knew the conservatorship was not going to end anytime soon. So what that clause actually meant was simple. Britney had no choice but to work, no choice but to perform, no choice but to keep generating money for everyone around her. And while Britney was reportedly being told what to eat, what to wear, who she could talk to, and which medications to take,
not only did my family not do a goddamn thing, my dad was all for it. Anything that happened to me had to be approved by my dad, and my dad only acted like he didn't know that I was told I had to be tested over the Christmas holidays before they sent me away when my kids went to home.
Sent away over the Christmas holidays while her kids were leaving. And the public was watching all of this play out on TMZ like it was reality television because the media machine made sure that's exactly how it looked. Celebrity drama, tabloid content, not a human being systematically stripped of her freedom by the people who were supposed to protect her. Now, Britney herself later compared her time in psychiatric facilities to something deeply disturbing. She said she was subjected to unnecessary and excessive psychological evaluations. She said workers watched her change clothes every single day. She said she had no privacy, no agency, no voice. And when Joe Rogan started digging into the Epstein files and the Britney connection, one of the first things he pointed out was this. Britney was placed inside a controlled medical environment, put on powerful medications she didn't consent to, monitored around the clock by hired staff, and financially exploited by people with direct financial interests in keeping her compliant. When you hear that description, strip away the celebrity part and ask yourself where else you've heard that playbook used. Now we get to the part of this story that made the internet go completely silent for a moment before erupting. When the Epstein files started being released and circulated online, most people were braced for names of politicians, billionaires, media executives, and yes, plenty of powerful figures came up. But what nobody expected, what made people do a double take and pause the scroll, was Britney Spears' name appearing in those documents. Specifically, screenshots of what appeared to be email communications between Jeffrey Epstein and a man identified as Mark Tremo began circulating online. And in those communications, according to what people reported seeing, there was allegedly a discussion involving Britney. What the nature of that discussion was, and what was allegedly planned, sent shockwaves through every corner of the internet. But even setting aside the most extreme allegations for a moment, here's what Joe Rogan zeroed in on when this story started gaining traction. Why was Jeffrey Epstein allegedly involved in conversations about Britney Spears at all? What connection did a man running one of the most infamous alleged trafficking networks in modern history have to a pop star's custody battles, medical situation, and professional projects? And then people started connecting something else. In those same Epstein-adjacent files, the Kardashians were mentioned. In a victim complaint submitted to the Southern District of New York in 2020, tied to Ghislaine Maxwell's alleged network, members of the Kardashian family were referenced. Specifically, Ghislaine Maxwell was alleged to have had involvement in dealings with the family. Khloe Kardashian and Kendall Jenner were referenced in connection with the complainant's marriages and identity changes. Kylie Jenner was linked to an alleged cosmetics transaction involving a reported $600 million deal. $600 million. That number didn't mean anything to most people when they first saw it, but for the people who had been following the Britney conservatorship story closely, that number meant everything. There it is, right there. Because here's where the Katt Williams thread, the Epstein files, and the Kardashian connection all start pulling into the same direction at the same time. Let's trace this money, because once you see the path it allegedly took, you cannot unsee it. Lou Taylor, Britney's business manager and conservatorship insider, didn't just run a management company. She was also a co-owner of a firm called Stonebridge Wealth Management. This investment firm was responsible for managing Britney's money during the conservatorship years. Now, in 2018, Britney's younger sister, Jamie Lynn Spears, was named as the trustee of Britney's SJB Revocable Trust, a trust Britney had originally set up in 2004 for her sons. Once Jamie Lynn became trustee, she filed court papers requesting to move the trust's assets to new investment advisors. And the firm she chose to manage those funds? Lou Taylor's Stonebridge Wealth Management. From there, according to financial records that internet investigators began piecing together, approximately $600 million of Britney's money was allegedly transferred into Stonebridge. The money was then allegedly moved to a separate Stonebridge branch registered in Panama. And in order to bring that money back into the United States as clean, legitimate funds, it was allegedly pumped into Kardashian businesses, specifically Kylie Cosmetics. Now, let's talk about the receipts that actually came up in public court documents. Documents obtained by Page 6 showed that Lou Taylor served as the agent for service of process for multiple Kardashian-Jenner businesses. That means Lou Taylor's name and address were legally tied to Kim Kardashian's companies, Kylie Jenner's companies, Kris Jenner's foundations, Kendall Jenner's ventures. And here is the detail that made people lose their minds. Lou Taylor's documented connection to the Kardashian businesses started specifically in 2019, the exact same year Britney's conservatorship was becoming increasingly controversial and public. A different business manager had been listed previously. Taylor suddenly appeared in his place at that precise moment. And when Britney's 2021 court testimony made headlines and blew the entire conservatorship story wide open, something interesting happened. Kim Kardashian and Kylie Jenner's corporations both filed new statements of information, changing their agent for service of process. They quietly removed Lou Taylor's name from the paperwork. Fast, efficient, deliberate, but they forgot one thing. They scrubbed the name, not the address. Tristar's address was still stamped all over the paperwork. And now the same name Lou Taylor that tied together Britney's conservatorship, her financial management, and her business dealings was also connecting directly to the Kardashian empire, right at the exact moment everything was about to come out. This is the part of the story that goes beyond money. This is where things get genuinely dark. And before we go here, understand that these are allegations, claims circulating from Katt Williams, online investigators, and Epstein-adjacent documents. None of this has been proven in court, but the reason millions of people are taking it seriously is because the pattern is too consistent to dismiss. The conservatorship was the neutralization of Britney Spears, but Katt is also saying that before the conservatorship was fully locked in during the chaos of 2007 and 2008, during the peak of Britney's mental crisis, something else was allegedly happening in the background. It has been reported in multiple places that Britney was allegedly introduced to wealthy men in Hollywood circles during this period. The same men, allegedly, who were connected to the Epstein network and who were known to frequent his island. And then the allegation gets worse. According to what has been circulating in Epstein-adjacent discussions, Britney may have been taken to the island herself, not as a willing participant, but allegedly, while she was in the middle of her most severe mental health crisis, while she was the most vulnerable and the most chemically compromised by the medications being forced on her.
You can go mentally impaired if you take too much, if you stay on it longer than 5 months. But he put me on that and I felt drunk. I really couldn't even take up for myself. I couldn't even have a conversation with my mom or dad really about anything. I told them I was scared.
She felt drunk. She couldn't take up for herself. She couldn't even have a normal conversation. And according to Katt, it's precisely because she was in that state, because she was medicated into near unconsciousness, that the lithium wasn't just about managing her. The lithium was allegedly there to ensure she wouldn't remember what was happening to her. The word on the street, according to Katt and the conversations circulating online, is that she was allegedly used for a couple of days at the absolute peak of her crisis. That people with significant amounts of money allegedly paid for access to her, and that the medication she was being given was deliberately calibrated to wipe her memory of the experience. Michael Jackson talked about this same thing, about being told they wanted to medicate him every day, about being warned that if he didn't comply, it would be easy to make him disappear with a medication switch that would read as a mental health incident on the news.
They wanted to medicate me every day. You realize, like, they could have just switched the medication and I wouldn't be here. And on the news, they would have said it was because of a mental issue.
They wanted to medicate him every day. And on the news, they would have said it was a mental issue. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what the narrative around Britney looked like from the outside. A woman who was mentally unstable. A woman who couldn't be trusted to manage her own life. A woman who needed to be controlled for her own protection. And the public bought it because the media sold it. And according to Katt Williams, the media was in on it too. Jeffrey Epstein had known connections to powerful media figures. And if someone controls the media narrative around you, the legal system around you, the medications inside your body, and the financial structure structures that hold your money, how do you fight back? How does anyone hear you when the people supposed to be your voice are the ones keeping you silent? The idea that cloning technology was being explored in those circles is not as far outside of reality as mainstream media would like you to believe. And then there's the visual evidence people online kept pointing to, the teeth.
Why does she have that gap in her teeth? It's because it's not Britney. The Britney Spears that we have seen, especially recently, is not Britney Spears. Who would put gaps in their teeth if they had perfect pearl white?
Think about it for a second. You cannot change your natural teeth without dental work. And if the person the public has been seeing in recent years had a gap that the original Britney Spears absolutely did not have, the question of when that gap appeared and why is a legitimate forensic question. Girls' nights, social media posts, casual hangouts at their homes. On the surface, it looks like two celebrity circles intersecting. But online, the reaction to these images was immediate and deeply suspicious. Because why are the people who were allegedly connected to the woman who helped exploit Britney now suddenly keeping Britney close? Why is the family whose names appear in Epstein-adjacent filings, whose businesses were allegedly connected to the financial structure managing Britney's money, why are they hanging out with her now?
Oh, we're just chilling.
In our geriatric bed.
Yeah. This bed vibrates. What the fuck?
She seems disconnected. She seems like someone who doesn't fully register where she is or who she's with. And the people online who have been watching Britney's behavior for years say that something about her current presentation, the way she moves, the way she speaks, the things she says, does not read like the Britney they grew up watching. Word on the street, according to multiple voices in the online community tracking this story, is that the Kardashians are keeping Britney close not out of friendship, but out of strategy. Because Britney, even a mentally compromised Britney, is a liability. She knows things, or at the very least, she experienced things that, if she ever fully recalled them and went public, could bring down some very powerful people. The safest thing to do with that kind of liability isn't to push her away, it's to keep her in your circle, keep her comfortable, keep her posting on social media, looking like everything is fine, make sure the world sees her as eccentric and erratic rather than credible and dangerous.
They switched on her so quick, they was just taking sweet pictures of Britney. How you doing, Britney? Looking good, Britney? You going shopping, Britney? Now they taking gangster pictures. Just get in the car. Show us your throw your wig in the air. Wave it like you just don't care. They don't give a fuck.
That's the machine. That is the Hollywood machine in full operation. The same people who were photographed smiling with Britney on red carpets, the same industry that celebrated her when she was profitable, turned her into a punchline the second she stopped being fully controllable. Watch that pattern play out in Britney's story. Watch it play out in Michael Jackson's story. Watch it play out in every celebrity who has ever gone from beloved to mocked to controlled within a very short window of time.
We were in New York and Britney Spears is in this hotel, locked up, in her room. We know this, there's paparazzi outside.
And so he's like, oh, let's stop by here. We got a ride in a Rolls Royce. We pull up, paparazzi got us getting out.
We go literally hide in a lobby, in a phone booth, wait 10 minutes, and then we come out. And then the next day it's like, Kim went to see Britney.
They say in the press that we're there to have dinner with Britney Spears. This whole thing, didn't even happen.
I don't even think she knew Britney at that point.
She was locked in a hotel room. Paparazzi camped outside. And someone in her orbit was staging media moments, creating a public narrative about her life that had nothing to do with reality. While the world watched the performance, nobody was asking what was actually happening inside that room. People are replaying all of it differently. They're listening to the old interviews. They're watching the court footage. They're reading the lyrics of songs that never got released. And the question that keeps coming up, the one that Joe Rogan articulated and that Katt Williams has been screaming from his platform, is one of the most chilling things you can sit with. What if Britney was never crazy? What if every single moment of that so-called breakdown was actually a woman in real danger, trying to communicate that danger to a world that had already been conditioned to see her as unstable?
It said he had a million phone calls about how I was not cooperating in rehearsals and I haven't been taking my medication. All of this was false. He immediately the next day put me on lithium out of nowhere. He took me off my normal meds I'd been on for 5 years. And lithium is a very, very strong and completely different medication compared to what I was using.
This was false. She said it herself. Everything they told the court, the non-cooperation, the medication refusal, was false. They lied. They documented lies. They used those lies to keep her medicated, controlled, and financially exploited for over a decade. All of it is connected, and Katt Williams has been one of the few people in the public eye willing to stand up and say it clearly, loudly, without walking it back.
Just like that, that's how quick them motherfuckers turn on you. You don't believe me? Ask Britney motherfucking Spears how quickly them motherfuckers turn on you. Poor Britney. Poor Britney. How sad, how hilariously sad would have happened If you ain't got your team right, they switched on her so quick. They was just taking sweet pictures of Britney. Just, how you doing, Britney? Looking good, Britney? You going shopping, Britney? Now they taking gangster pictures. Just get in the car. Show us your throw your wig in the air. Wave it like you just don't care. They don't give a fuck.
They switched on her fast, and the people who switched on her are still standing, still powerful, still operating. And Britney Spears, wherever the real Britney Spears is, has been living with whatever happened to her since the moment the cameras stopped being sympathetic. The world screamed, "Free Britney." And then the world freed Britney. And then the world kept scrolling. It's happening to other people right now, in the same circles, with the same names. And that might be the most important thing Katt Williams is saying. Not just about Britney, about all of it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what you think about everything we covered today. And if this video hit different, you know what to do.